Good day, everyone. Hi, hello, colleagues, and welcome to our workshop on teaching writing as a process. I'm Miss Ndlovu, and today we'll explore practical ways to shift our writing lesson from focusing on the final product, which is actually the neat and the marked essay, to concentrating on the process that helps our learners grow confident and independent writers. So, this presentation aligns with the CAP's English Home Language policy, which was filmed in 2011, and it draws insights from two authors, which is Ferrara in 2009 and Killen in 2015. So both these authors focus on the quality of learning and the language pedagogy. So let's begin by examining how CAPS defines writing and why the process approach is really essential for our learners. So firstly, let's look at the CAPS background. So CAPS in 2011 reminds us that writing isn't just a paper, you're just not writing words on a piece of paper. It's more than that, actually. It's about developing the ideas and using language purposefully and communicating meaning more effectively. And the CAPS curriculum or the document also emphasizes that writing as a process of thinking, planning, and reflecting is really essential. And it also states that learners should move through stages. We have different types of stages, from pre-writing to drafting to revising, editing, and then the final stage, which is the publishing stage. So these stages move from the first stage, which is from essentially the processing stage, up until the final product stage. So according to Killen in 2015, quality learning occurs when students actively construct meaning rather than passively copying, meaning that it is really important for our students to actively construct meaning, to put meaning, to reflect to whatever that they are learning or writing, rather than just writing with no meaning or understanding. For example, a lot of students, when they take tests or exams, they tend to cram things. They just cram the entire essays, they cram the entire books, they cram the entire notes that they have. But when you actually have to question these students if they understand what they're writing, they don't. So it's really important for our learners or our students to apply constructive meaning to whatever that they're doing. So in process writing, our learners become the doers, thinkers, and reflective writers rather than mere responders to exam prompts. So let's unpack the stages one by one. As I've highlighted, the writing process has 5 stages. First, we have the pre-writing stage, we have the drafting stage, we have the revising stage, we have the editing stage, and then the final stage, which is the publishing stage. As I've previously mentioned, our stages start from the process and then it goes one by one up until the final product, which is the publishing stage, the final essay. Let's look at the first stage, pre-writing or planning. So what happens in this stage? Why is it important? So the first stage here, the learners gather their ideas through brainstorming, mind maps, discussions, and even drawings. We encourage them to think about the purpose, audience, and form who they're writing for and why. So whenever our students are writing, it's really important that they question themselves. Who am I writing this for? What is the purpose of me writing this? What is my target market? So they should ask themselves these questions. They're very important. So Ferrari in 2009 refers to this as the mental mapping of meaning. It's where ideas begin to take shape. For For example, if learners are going to write a narrative essay about technology and learning, we can start with prompts like, what happened that day? Or, how did you make you feel? By allowing them to talk before they write, we bridge the thought and the language together, a crucial step in learning to write. So let's move to the second stage, drafting. So what happens in the drafting stage? Here, learners write their first version freely, no red pens yet. So they write this freely without any red pens or any marking. So we remind them that the first draft is for ideas. This does not need to be perfect. So they're just writing it by themselves. So the teacher's role is to apply support and not criticize the students in this stage. So Killen in 2015 says an effective classroom allows learners to take risks without the fear of failure. So the students should actually have the courage to start their writing without fearing that they'll fail at the end of the day. So at this stage, let's value two things most importantly: creativity and expression. The grammar will come later, so that's why we don't even mark this stage. Let's go to the third stage, which is, revising or reseeing. So the third stage is revising. Revision literally means to see again. So learners read through their drafts, they recognize ideas, they improve the flow, they might even swap paragraphs, they might rewrite the openings or clarify the confusing parts. I often ask my students in this section, which is the revising, does this paragraph make sense to someone else? Or would I want to read the story? Peer review works beautifully here. Learners learn from each other and it gives them a sense of ownership. So let's look at the next stage, which is editing. I call this one the polished language. So the fourth stage, it's the editing stage. So this is where the learners start to focus on grammar, punctuation, their spelling. So they refine sentences structure and they start polishing their presentation. So the CAP suggests that providing learners with an editing checklist. It's really important to have an editing checklist to check like if they use the correct punctuation marks, if they use the correct tense, maybe that they complete the sentences. This is really important, so they will get to go back and edit and check if they did everything correctly. So we teach correctness after meaning is clear, because editing a well-developed idea is much easier than rather than focusing on perfection from start. So also, I think this plays a crucial role because our students or our learners will not feel under pressure rather than trying to do everything at once. So, and then let's look at the last stage, which is publishing or sharing the work. So this can be as simple as reading their story aloud, typing it for class anthology, or posting it on the classroom wall, publishing turns, writing into communication, not just compliance. So learners see their work valued by an audience, and that makes them very proud. It actually motivates them to do better, or they actually want to improve. So Ferrari in 2019 reminds us that writing only becomes real when learners see that it means something to others. So it is always important to display whatever that the students have done and motivate your students. So now let's look at two different things: essay writing and transactional writing. Most of these are applied in paper 3. But yeah, so now that we understand the stages, let's briefly compare two things: essay writing and translational writing, two main writing types that are found in the CAPS curriculum. So essays such as narrative or descriptive allow creativity and emotional expression, right? They enable learners to explore their personal voice and imagination most of the time. So this enhances their creative side, their feelings. Yeah. And then let's look at transitional writing. On the other hand, this includes things such as letters, reports, dialogues, where format, tone, and purpose matters the most. So these are like two different types of writings. One focuses on the creativity, where you are able to personally voice yourself using creativity and imagination. And then the other one, the tone is different, the purpose is different, even the audience is different. So in narrative essays, learners might create characters and a plot. In an informal letter, they focus on the structure and the conversation that happens. So both planning and revision is essential. The process stays the same, only the purpose changes. So applying process in narrative examples, essay examples. So let's look at the classroom example, a narrative essay titled "The Day Technology Changed My Learning." So how did the technology actually change your learning? So stage 1, pre-writing. Ask learners to share ideas or experiences where phones or social media help them study. They jot down notes, and some would even do mind maps together. So step 2, drafting. Learners write freely, telling their stories from the beginning to the end. The focus is on storytelling and not punctuation. Remember, in this stage, we also do not mark, we just listen. The third stage, which is revising. They swap drafts with their peers, asking what confused you or what part felt real. The fourth stage, which is the editing, you teach tense, consistency, and paragraph structure through quick mini lessons. And then the final stage, publishing, you display their stories on a digital or share them in a group. This method transforms writing into a collaborative process, giving learners a voice, confidence, and structure. So applying writing, informal letter example. Let's look at informal letter example. So we have different types of letters. We have formal letters and informal letters. So let's look at the informal for today. So the exact process applies to transactional writing, such as informal letter writing. The first stage, pre-writing, discuss who the letter is for and why. The second stage, drafting, learners write naturally. They don't worry about the neatness yet, the punctuation yet. They're just writing and expressing themselves. The third stage is revising. The peers check the tone. Is it warm and is it inviting? The fourth stage, publishing. Learners rewrite neatly and decorate or share their letters. And then by repeating the process across genres, learners internalize good writing habits. They begin to plan automatically before writing and reflect naturally afterward. So why process writing works? Why do you think process writing actually works? I think process writing works because first, it builds confidence in our students. Our students become so confident and they become so encouraged. 2, learners' improvement over time. They realize that writing isn't magic, it's a matter of practice. It teaches our students or learners critical literacy through revision and feedback. Learners question how language shapes meaning. Another thing, they move from what should I write to what do I want to say. So Killen in 2015 refers to this as the constructive alignment, a situation in which teaching, assessment, and learning mutually support on one another. So the classroom becomes a workshop of thinkers and not groups. And then the last one, audience and question response. So I often have a few questions from teachers when we discussed this approach. So let me address the most three common ones. Question one, does process writing take too much time? Honestly speaking, not really. If we spread the stages across the lessons and use group activities, which mostly focuses on learner-based approach, which is a great thing, this helps. So time balances out, and then the payoff is deeper learning. Question two, what about large classrooms? How will you control them? What will you do? So for large classrooms or large classes, use peer editing and checklists. That's really important. Use peer checking and checklists. Learners help each other. It saves marking time and builds collaboration. Once again, group work is important. Question three, will weaker learners manage? Great question, I always say. So will weaker learners manage? Yes, they will. Process writing actually helps them the most, I believe, because it breaks the writing into steps, and weaker learners receive the structure and support rather than feeling lost at the start. And then in our conclusion, as we conclude, remember this. Writing isn't a product, it is a process of becoming. When we teach learners to brainstorm, draft, revise, and publish, we teach them how to think, not just how to write. CAPS gives us the framework, but our creativity brings it to life. As Ferrari said in 2015, beautifully notes, writing grows through interaction, reflection, and purposeful revision. So let's create classrooms where every learner feels they have something worth saying and the tools to say it well. Thank you for joining me. May this session inspire you to transform your writing lessons to a vibrant living space of language and imagination. So for references, I use the Department of Education CAPS curriculum. I use Ferrari 2009. I use teaching language from Ferrari. I used Killen or in 2015, teaching strategies for quality teaching. I use Van de Veld and the English textbook. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope to see you next time.